our third episode.
That's
right. And every now and then, we're going to have a male come on to get a male perspective of what we're talking about in our conversation. We always need that to kind of balance us out.
Yeah.
So you tuned into the Naked Podcast. And guess what? It's not what you think.
Y'all ready to get naked?
Right.
This episode today in week 3, welcome everyone. We will be talking about the impact of fatherhood, hence why we have a male here. We would love a male's perspective as well as our own. I need to work on that. But yeah, so Shaniqua, can you tell us your what your perspective is? We can go down the line.
Of course, definitely. So spending all this time with you ladies, I realized you all had daddies. And I don't say it in a bad way. That's awesome. But like, I didn't grow up with my father. To this day, I don't talk to my father. So just growing up with no father figure, I feel like for me, and then having a kid young, I had to be like extra everything, you know. And listening to you ladies these last few weeks, I realized you guys had like a buffer. You see what I'm saying? Like, you had someone to be there. You're able to, like, be a young woman, a young girl. You see what I'm saying? And I don't know what that feel like. Like, I've always been, like, on 1,000 because of, A, didn't have a dad, and then, B, having a child so young, so putting myself in a situation where I had to take care of somebody else. Like, I've always been on 1,000. And, like I said, I love you guys. But I realized, you know, it's just that envious feeling. It's like, dang, you guys got to be young women. And it sounds really, really nice. But all I can say with that, because, you know, at 32, it's like, okay, this is what I want my daughter to have. And this is what she has. So it encouraged me to keep going where she's going with her father. Because I realized having a father was super duper important.
It is.
So I want to introduce our guest today, Mr. Keith. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Of course. We would love to hear what your perspective of your childhood was.
I also didn't get to be a little girl.
How unfortunate.
We're sorry you missed out.
Make it sound so good.
I know, right? They did too.
No. My childhood was military brat. I moved around a lot. But my dad he was always there. Even when he wasn't, he was still around. Whether I liked it at times or didn't. I said he taught me a lot of stuff as far as how I molded how I would be later with my son. A lot of the same things that my dad did with me, I made sure I did with my son. And still do them. Or whenever we go home, make sure we do the same stuff my dad did with me together with my son. So he can see that. But, how can I put it? Okay. No, I say like my father was very important in letting me know everything I wanted to be and what I didn't want to be. Like I said, military, I did that. Knew I didn't want to do it, even though he stayed in. My father, like me, is very quiet. We don't talk about feelings and all of that necessarily, at least until I was far into adulthood and I had my own issues. Then we had those conversations, but not when I was a child.
That's interesting. So how was that conversation? Like, considering you never talked about feelings, you had issues, and then bam.
At that point, it was two grown men talking about how we felt.
Wow.
And why we didn't talk about why we felt right then. Like, it was, excuse me, certain things that I feel that, like, just like little girls don't understand about their mothers until they're adults and go through it.
Yes.
It's that type of situation where, like, we didn't have a like mind frame to have that conversation. And at a certain point, he being my hero and understanding he was my hero, heroes can't be human.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, so until it was a point where I didn't need him to be my hero anymore, we couldn't talk as two men or just two guys shooting the shit. Like, couldn't really do it.
Yeah.
For men, was there, first of all, how old is your son?
My son's 10.
Oh, okay, cute.
Wow. Okay.
Was there, like, when you had that kind of conversation, any kind of, like, pride or ego, you know, how males have that, you know, like, for your dad, because, like you said, he was the hero, and and now you guys are talking about emotions. Was there some type of, like, barrier for you guys to even have that conversation during the conversation?
I don't think there wasn't like a barrier for why we didn't. We just didn't. I feel that, like, a lot of time, at least with men, it's not that we have problems having the conversations. We just don't feel the need to.
Okay.
We can express ourselves, but the subject doesn't come up and we don't force it. You know, ain't no point in talk about something that ain't nobody talking about.
Right.
And again, it wasn't until I was in I was in my mid-30s, because I'm 38 now, but had some serious life changes.
Okay.
So we had that conversation, talked about therapy, all of that stuff, like him having to deal with it with military and other stuff forced and me dealing with it because I just didn't have nobody to talk to.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we had like a really good conversation about why us as men and black men don't have those conversations more.
Oh, my God.
That's true.
You're here.
That's true.
So like now I'm still like my daddy, but like we don't really talk about it with me and my son, but he knows that he always can.
Yeah.
Like, but he's a 10-year-old boy, so the last thing he's really trying to talk about is his emotions. You just want to talk about Fortnite and
Oh my God, mine too. I'm like, get off of Fortnite, dude. Well, I want to say to both of you, especially Shaniqua, like there are, you know, the people who don't have their dads, and then there are people who have their toxic dads. So it may not have been, you know, we have a dad. They just might not be the best dad. So you saying, oh, you can be a little girl, you can be a young woman. Not everybody can. And I would say my childhood was very good. You know, we were like the Cosby Show family. We had round tables and stuff like that. Like, oh, we're not your parents tonight. Tell me your issues type thing. You know, but after they got divorced, that's when everything turned really, really bad. My father, he's, you know, how you were talking about therapy. He was in the military, but for like 3 years, right? So he didn't get all that like therapy because I'm a veteran now, but being in the military, you get that access to therapy.
my dad did 23.
Exactly. So there's a difference. My dad told me verbatim, was like, I don't understand why y'all kids these days talking about anxiety. We didn't have that growing up. Like, I don't understand. And I'm just like, do you hear yourself? Like, what? Like, we're telling you
Like
that
they
we
had
have
it, you
issues.
just call it dealing with it. Like you just dealt with it.
But that's not good. It's just not. It's really a bunch of suppressed feelings and emotions that eventually you get so used to. Now this is your lifestyle, and now you're pushing this lifestyle onto your children, and now they're being raised this way, and now they might do the same thing, but now we are learning to break that cycle of raising our kids. Do you feel?
Generational curses.
Exactly.
At the same point, you can't break a cycle you don't see.
That's true.
That's normal.
So
Right.
a lot of folks,
Yes.
like, you don't address a problem you don't feel you have. And or you think, like, this is just what I'm supposed to do. Like, generally, I feel that a lot of our views of manhood is toxic and is, like, just period. Like, toxic masculinity is basically masculinity from the average individual. Like, you don't express your feelings, you don't talk about stuff, you either lash out or you don't deal with it, or you deal with it in a very unhealthy way.
Yes. Yeah.
And like, men don't talk to men about this stuff. Generally, we're not talking to our children about this stuff. You're worried about, are they eating? Do they have a roof over their head? Do they have what they need? Can you provide most of the time the little stuff that they want? We're not necessarily checking on their mental health because we don't check on ours.
Right.
I think also with I don't want to say new generations of fathers, but I think a lot of fathers now are looking back at how their fathers raised them, and they're trying to change that narrative. Because I know even with my son, he's 15, he'll talk to my son about emotions, right? They'll have those conversations. It may be inappropriate in my mind, but they'll have it, and they can have that dialogue. And I think it's because he couldn't have that dialogue with his own father. Yeah. So I think now fathers are realizing that those generational curses, like you said, they probably didn't realize it was something, but they want something different from their own children.
And I feel that, like, most generations don't want for their children what they have for themselves.
Yes, I agree.
Whether that's good or bad. A lot of times, like, nepotism and all of that, which is a wonderful thing, it should happen, doesn't. Like, we feel like, I earned it, you should go and earn it too, as opposed to providing those tools to your child, to better put them at a different platform. And, like, emotionally and all that, we don't do that.
So what do you cry about?
I'm gonna be honest with you, darling, I have not cried in years.
Wow.
It's, honestly, when you are in a mode of worried about surviving, you do not have time to cry about stuff.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say, at least for a short period of time, it was just survival, so I wasn't worried about crying. And when I did, because I couldn't deal with it no more, but I haven't had a good bad cry in like 4 or 5 years.
You think that's important? To be able to?
I think it is.
I feel that having a outlet for your emotions is important, not necessarily crying, because not everybody needs to
Do you
cry.
think that's a bad thing to cry?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's not a good or bad thing. It's a vehicle. Yeah. Some people need it, some people don't.
Yes.
What works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. So smiling may be what I need to do as opposed to crying. So I'll rather smile than cry. I just don't cry.
And I know we're talking about fatherhood, but how does that affect your male-female relationships? How does that, as far as not wanting to or being able to?
I've never had a problem with wanting or being able to. Like, that's not really an issue. Super emotional. Like, I'm emo as hell. It just really falls down to, do I feel like I can express those with you without being either judged, marginalized, or emasculated behind it?
Yeah, that's super important. I wonder if that's like, because even with my husband now, you talked about the crying situation. He also, before I met him, he was in like survival mode, right? Even though he had a good job and everything, he was going through his own divorce. So he's in survival mode. Yeah. But I've never seen him in that midst of all that cry, or I would have been bawling every day. I'm very emotional. But like he was in survival mode. And it's just interesting because I see more and more men are just like in survival mode.
I don't think survival mode's necessarily a good thing, though.
It's not.
It's not.
Oh, okay, I'm like,
No, it's a good thing.
It's not
No.
good.
It's not good. Just interesting, but no, it's not good.
I think with me, like with my dad, with the crying, my dad, I was the oldest, and he always told us not to cry. My dad was a country boy, so he would always be like, you know, you don't need to be crying, and just suck it up, y'all. You
I've
got
seen
this.
my father cry once in life, and that was after literally us fighting,
Yeah.
like throwing blows, fighting.
Y'all had that.
We both left. Like I remember leaving home for like 2 days, and he was gone for most of the afternoon. The only time I've seen my father cry, that was not a result of intense pain.
Wow.
What? How old were you?
Like 15?
Oh, you had
15, 16?
that fight that my brother had with our dad.
What fight is that? Oh
my God, no.
It's that sometimes,
Like
you know,
it's
when they say you're smelling yourself, that fight, and then you have to be like, you know, that.
that fight went
But the crazy thing with that, because my son's 15 and I'm going through that, he's smelling this stuff. But as his mom, it's like, dude, you gonna buck with me? We gonna buck, like, and that sometimes I think he really wanna buck at me. But he's like, okay, this is also my mom, so I think he feel conflicted.
Yeah, they do that.
Right, but no, we had
age.
a situation. We argue, like, he literally, the car was moving. He jumped out the car.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because he was just, like, that frustrated. And that's, like, the first time I ever seen him cry in so long. Because he felt like he couldn't talk. He can't hit me.
Yeah.
So he just, like, forget it.
It just
right,
all
exactly.
came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is too
No,
cool.
it was in retrospect, it was something really damn stupid. And me having a conversation with my mom and him being like, "Don't talk to my wife like that," and I'm like, "That's my mom. Who are you talking to?" Storm out. One good punch and then he choked me out, and then that was it.
You were good, right? You were like, oh, that's my daddy.
And then I'm like, I took my little paper route money, grabbed a backpack full of clothes.
I'm out of here. I'm gone. I'm a man.
Until you got hungry.
I'm like, I got money and I got a place to stay. I'll deuce out.
I remember I tried to run away one time and I had packed everything. My mom was like, you can leave, but you gotta leave everything I paid for behind. I was like, that's everything.
Yeah, like in that situation, by that time, I was already buying most of my stuff. Like that's one thing I can say. My pop did install a very good work ethic. I've held a job since like 13.
That's what my dad did too.
I love that. Yeah.
Always told us to work.
I wish I could get my son to do the same, but like he probably won't be that kid. And that's not a
10-year-old?
bad thing. Yeah, my 10-year-old most definitely is not going to be the paper route mowing lawns little kid.
But you know what?
never know.
It's a new generation.
Yeah.
He can do the
Most definitely will
Fortnite
be the Twitch
YouTuber.
streamer.
He can manage the
Yes.
paper
Yeah,
route.
that's my
That's what he
son.
does.
You can do that.
Yeah,
You
somebody
pay for
throw
that. You know
paper
that,
for
right?
him.
I know.
I get that
Come
too,
here.
but I feel like it's nothing because my son's the same way. He got this whole room. He wanted to do YouTube. Paper route is instant. Like, go work, get out the room.
But there's no paper.
But that's the new
Yeah,
generation.
Right.
That's true, too.
Well, don't I read newspapers no more?
Gotta be social media.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
So
That
this
is
is
the
this
new
is
version of a paper route.
it is, and this has been a great conversation. I wish we
Yes.
had more time to talk about it, but we will invite you back. And you made history because you're our first male guest,
You're our first on Naked.
right? And so thank you for hanging out with us for a little bit on the Naked Podcast. No, this is not the Breakfast Club. It is the Naked Podcast.
Awesome.
And so, what is our tagline? It is not what you think.
What you think?
But maybe.
So let's get naked.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say that.
So we're going to take a break for a little bit, and we'll be back in a few minutes with our next guest, and we're going to see what his perspective is.
Awesome.
Thank you,
So
Keith.
thank you for coming out. So we're back, y'all, naked and all.
Yes.
You tune back into the Naked Podcast, and we're having a continuous conversation about fatherhood from a different perspective. And so we're going to be chatting with a young man. We have a very special person that's going to be introducing him, and then he's going to tell us a little bit about himself. And then we're going to just all jump in and start asking them a lot of questions.
Well, hey, how's it going? My name is Sean Simon. Originally, I'm from California. Born, repping LA till the day I die. A little bit about me. I was pretty different individual, like different mindset, different way of thinking. But lived in LA up until I guess I was like 7 or 8. Moved to Georgia. You know, parents had a rocky divorce, so they that's what forced us to move. I was really active in high school and things like that. Always kind of excelled in whatever I did as far as sports or athletics were concerned. Then left, went to college, had some fun, and then I lost my grandpa, who was my male figure that I looked up to growing up. Lost him in 2012. So for me, that was like, you know, that at that time they had the whole end of the world phase thing going. That was my end of the world because I lost my grandpa at that time. Then I left, and because he was military, he was an officer in the Haitian Army, and then he got here into the American Army. He was an officer here as well. So, you know, I want to follow that legacy. I wasn't an officer, but I joined the Army. I did special operations for the past 6 years. Army Ranger, had my fun times. But, you know, with that being said, I experienced a lot of racism in regiment as well, just because it is what it is. It's a white man's army. Yep. And I did what I could, got what I can out of it. Loved the brothers I made when I was there. But, you know, I want to get out and venture onto bigger and better things just because I know my worth. You know, I'm a very smart individual, but I got to project that into the universe and let everyone else know my worth as well. So I'm out here. I go to Texas A&M. Hey. Getting my degree in HR management, and then I didn't want to go into grad school, but I'm probably going to go to grad school since all of this is free for me. So, you know, I can't complain.
Doctor.
But it's coming soon. Right. But I'm probably going to go to grad school because although HR management is something I'm great at, social work is something I'm passionate about. Like, I like helping people. I volunteer all the time. Like when you see me out and about at night, it's not, you know, I'm not picking up girls and can I curse on here?
Yeah.
I ain't picking up girls and shit like that. Now I can be lax. I'm not doing that other shit. I'm going out and I'm like talking to the homeless, like, cause so one day I had a dream, like, and I don't know what it is. Like I got a vision and that I needed to be helping people. And this happened like last year. And that's why I like started to venture out and kind of like really shift my focus into like helping the homeless, but then now is more so because the more I interact with people like you know, people that's like help me migrate and change my mindset is like, it's not the homeless I need to target, is, you know, what's the root of the issue? Like how did you become homeless in the first place? So like, that's where I'm really shifting a lot of my mindset is like, you know, I wanted to target the youth, you know, because a lot of them are out there because, you know, they're getting mistreated at home. There's rape. There's you know, people getting molested, or like, you know, people are gay and they're getting, you know, the family's just not, you know, they don't see eye to eye with that.
Right.
So people are running away from home, and where do they go? They're on the streets. They're prostitution, drugs, it's stuff like that. And they need to find an outlet where they can go and not only get help, but also, you know, talk. Because I feel like the biggest issue in not only the black community, well, really, the black community. Our biggest issue is our ego. It's the ego and it's lack of communication. So, like, black people, we don't know how to fucking talk. That's the basis on everything. Like, that's why our kids are fucked up. That's why we're fucked up right now. I'm glad. Granted, the mindset is shifting, and I love it. Like, everybody's become melanated. We're starting to know our own self-worth. But in that own aspect, it's like, we don't really know how to communicate efficiently with each other. That's why you see divorce rates on the sky rise. That's why you see suicide rates and kids that get bullied. It's not because these kids are weak. It's not because these kids got bullied to an extent where it just hurts their fucking feelings too bad. I mean, it happened, but it's because as a parent or as a guardian or whatever the fuck we were supposed to be to this kid, we're not efficiently talking to this kid. We're babying the kid. We need to like tell our children or whatever. Tell them the real. Give it to them straight. Like, hey, in life, this is going to happen. And this is why whenever I do have kids, because I don't, but when I do have kids, I'm not going to fucking do that stupid shit that I see people do all the time, is talk to them like babies. Like, oh, you're so fucking... I hate that shit. Like, I want to talk. I'm going to talk to my kids like a fucking adult. Like, he might be 2 years old. I'm like, hey, fucking Calfani, because I want to name my kid Calfani. I think it's a cool name. Calfani.
You picked out everything.
Why? why did you do that? Well, I don't. Well, explain. I want them to be able to understand that they
That's
can
how they learn their
comprehend.
language.
Yeah, comprehend what you want to think about. That way, they're getting an understanding on how to work their own thoughts, understanding their own thoughts. And I feel like when a child understands their own thoughts and their own mental process, they'll become more intelligent. And who doesn't want a more intelligent child? Because a more intelligent child equals a doctor. I don't want if my child excels in sports, great. But I don't want a fucking child that excels in sports. I want a doctor. I want an engineer. I want somebody who's gonna change the planet in some way, shape, or form for the better. Because I haven't done it yet. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Right. But
athletes can change the future.
Absolutely,
they
but
use their platform to change it all the time.
True, but I don't want my child to be corrupted by the money.
Yeah.
So with that, I want them to.
But that's the values that you instill in him as a father.
True.
He can choose whatever career path, but whatever you taught him and however you raised him is how he's going to be. Yeah. So he could be an athlete as long as you instilled in him your values of, philanthropic work or whatever. That's what he'll take with him.
Absolutely, and
depending on how you raise them.
That's just my vision for the child, but I don't really give a fuck what my child does, because at the end of the day, I'm living my life, and this is my reality. My child's gonna have his own life to live, his own reality, so he's gonna have to choose his own path, make his own mistakes. All I can do is offer my guidance and my loving support as a father, if that happens or whatever, and then leave it at that. Let him fuck up on his own and be great on his own. And hopefully, as a father, I can sit back and be like, hey, you did great. Now I'm retired and I'm living great and I'm rich.
You can take care of me.
So did y'all tell him he couldn't curse?
He didn't even ask. Like, can I curse? He's just like,
Right. No, I know it's good. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
So how do you think the impact of how your father raised you? Is that why you have these thoughts on how you want to raise your future son?
Absolutely. So the way my father raised me was a lack of. So my father didn't raise me, so I got to see what someone who neglected their son early on, looks like. And I saw it firsthand. All I had was my mother and my grandpa. My grandpa was my lifeline. My mother was that was my God right there. She was my black queen. Aww. I love my mom. She's done more than enough for me and continues to do more than enough to this day. But, with that being said, I had a lot of resentment towards my mom, because although she was this strong queen that did everything for me, in high school, me playing all these sports or whatnot, I couldn't go out there and, I couldn't look in the stands. I definitely didn't see my bullshit dad in the stands because he wasn't there. But my mom never came to a track meet. When I went to nationals, she didn't go to nationals. She wasn't able to make it. When I played football, when I wrestled, when I did a lot, she just wasn't there. When I had my highest moments in life, I didn't have my mom there with me.
Why wasn't she there? Why?
Work.
She was at work. Okay, that's what I was going to say. She was
but
working.
That's the thing. Okay. Like when I was a child, I had to grow up. I grew up fast as hell. Like when I was working at like 15. Worked at Six Flags. Shout out to Six Flags over Georgia, hustling them smoothies. Shout out. But when I was working hard, and it's because I knew my mom was working, so I didn't put that pressure of asking her to come over. My dad used to be at home chilling because they were still trying to work through the divorce, but. Because they divorced once, and then she left and moved to Georgia with us. And then he came, and they worked it out, got married again, and then divorced again because he's a piece of shit again. So it's like, dude, you can't be a piece of shit your whole life. But it is what it is. But I saw all the issues she went through and like what she had to overcome being a single mom. And I'm a twin. I have a twin sister. So it was like me and my twin sister, my older sister. And the whole time, my twin sister is close to my dad because, daddy's girl. Me, I'm looking at this guy like, fuck you, dude. Like my whole childhood was shitty because you didn't take the time to get to know your own son. And on top of that, I'm Haitian. So with me being Haitian, I understand the culture background of why he is what he is. Being Haitian, like and being Caribbean, there's just that strong masculine background that you have,
right?
And you don't necessarily learn how to talk and love and nurture your children. Right. You just do. You do because you have to. You have to provide for them. I'm not saying my dad was a complete piece of shit as far as like he didn't provide. He didn't provide a lot, but he did provide, which was cool. But I mean, it's not necessarily about the money, because my mom could have found any man off the street who made more than my dad or whatever. Not to say that my dad was just balling, but you know, she could have found any man to replace that financial void. But what are you doing about that emotional void that I needed as a child that I didn't get because he was too busy fucking around with a bunch of other women, or being this hyper masculine mentality that he had, that he couldn't tell his own son that he loved him, you know? So it's a lot of stuff like that I see that we go through, and not only in the Caribbean community, because that's definitely a fucking thing, but in the Black community, we don't take the time to sit around and not even just, you know, I love you, son. Not even shit like that. Just like check in with your kids. Like just have a check in. Like even if it's like every Friday or every Sunday, like, hey man, come holler at me. All right, what's up? Tell me about your week. What are you going through? Like, what's the issues? You meet a girl. Are you experiencing some changes in sexuality? You gotta not be afraid to have those conversations, because if you don't, somebody else is gonna fucking have those conversations, and it's not gonna be the person you necessarily want. So why not? And again, and like I say, it ties back to ego. Why not go back and break out of your ego and have that conversation with your child? Like, oh, this is gonna be uncomfortable, but fuck it. He needs to know about sex. He needs to know about transgenderism. I don't even know if that's a fucking word, but it's probably not. But hey, don't judge me. But he needs to know about transgender issues. He needs to know about pedophilia, sex trafficking. These conversations are real, because, side note, 70,000 Black women are missing. So that's a thing. And if you don't believe me, look that shit up, because definitely
It's true.
It is.
But yeah, these are conversations we need to have with our kids. So I would just challenge everyone that's listening to, if you have kids, to break out of your norm and just to really talk to them about those pressing issues that we need to talk to them about. Because I would rather, you know, no matter what your race is, I know for me, strong Black woman, to talk about her, you know, issues are issues they're going with her strong Black child, not, you know, not someone from another, you know, who might not necessarily have gone through what you've gone through, to talk to your child about shit that they're not going to understand. Because, you know, all right, for example, I think like 3 weeks ago, I got pulled over. Cop was talking to me reckless. I know physically I could have whooped his ass. It's based off the shit I've gone through in the Ranger Regiment, just being, and not even that Ranger shit, just being a Black dude that know how to fight. I would have fucked that cop up. But because you have to have these conversations with your kids about mannerisms, about how to deal with ignorant people, it's not through violence, it's through intellect. So if you're dealing with somebody that's, you know, belligerent, you can't be belligerent, because all you're doing is entertaining their ignorance. So you really just want to use your intellect and intelligence to counter that, and make sure you're in a safe predicament, because that way you're going home safe to your family. But then also you can articulate your viewpoint to the proper channels and get that fucking cop you know, fired, or whatever the fuck they're gonna do to that guy. But use your intellect and your you know, just be smart about shit like that, like firing off and just, you know, and being impulsive, which is majority of our issues in this day and age. Is like,
they want you to do that.
Yeah, it's because
They do what they do.
we all feed into, and that's something I struggle with. I used to, I'm still dealing with now. We all feed into that dopamine part of the brain, which is this instant gratification, you know. And the more dopamine you have, the harder it is for your body to make. So that's why this generation, you know, if you don't know anything, let me ask Google. Ask Google. That's that instant dopamine.
Amazon, one click. I don't got my stuff coming. Okay.
As opposed to going to a book, opening a book and finding out. That's how our bodies naturally are supposed to receive this dopamine influx that we have now. Like right now, like the media, we're stimulated with things that release dopamine with our brain. With it being a lyric, Meg Thee Stallion. What should be saying? Toot that ass up or something like that. I don't know what she'd be saying, but like lyrics like that stimulate dopamine. Yeah. Porn, that's the number one thing. And I'm not gonna even lie. I was addicted to porn for a while, and I really had to sit back and realize what it was doing to my brain. Like, you know, because you watch porn, and what happens to your body is that it continues to build a defense. Like, so with all the dopamine that you see that's being stimulated and watch porn, it becomes harder for you to not become aroused, because that's not a thing. But I'm saying it becomes harder for you to find normal relationships and things like that.
You're going to be comparing.
Yeah, so you start to look for more deviant behavior. Yeah. So Well, I ventured off on a side vent, but I'm just saying, stay away from the.
Topic here is fatherhood.
Sorry about
Talking
that.
about porn.
And you took up all your time, but we enjoyed it. This was a naked conversation from you on the Naked Podcast.
Yes.
And we must bring you back.
Yes.
I like to talk. I'm
some
sorry.
more.
It's okay.
Oh, no, that's okay.
we
We
love
enjoyed it. You are brilliant.
Yes.
And you touched on a lot of important topics that are significant and important for us to talk about and be naked about.
Yes.
And so we're going to bring you back. You didn't quite make the cut on making the history. You were the second male to appear, but maybe we can get both of y'all together and a couple
that's
of
gonna be
Naked
good.
Podcast hosts
Yeah.
and really, really dig deep.
You get me going, like it's gonna get real in here, and I'm not gonna filter.
We wanted to get real.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's no filter. Like I like to look at life objectively. So like, you know, there's the real, there's the good, they're bad, and then no, that's not it. There's the truth, there's his truth, her truth, and then there's that truth.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's always three truths. I mean, so
Three sides.
there's three sides to every story, and everybody thinks there's two, but that's definitely not a thing because the truth is the truth. So, and it will set you free for sure.
It
That's
will.
right.
And so we're going to set you free now. No, but we appreciate you coming on. We had a great conversation, enjoyed listening to you, and really, really got a lot out of it, and hope
Yes.
that our audience will get a lot out of it too. You've been tuned into the Naked Podcast on TAN TV, the African American Network. We have a local feel and a global reach, and you're going to be seen globally. So we're gonna have a contest to see how many times she said the F word.
You know, and it's something I'm working on. As far as like my professional development, I'm working on it.
I get it. It's fine.
This is the Naked Podcast, so you just let it all hang out. But again, thank you for tuning in.
Absolutely.
And we're gonna have another great episode coming up pretty soon. This is going to be a weekly show.
Yes.
And so we're gonna start. We're gonna launch it soon, and we'll let you know so you can put the word out.
I'll be here whenever you want to, get some random rants going. I'm that guy for sure. So
I would have hit up Sean.
yeah, definitely.
And he's got the natural hair going too.
I'm on my melanated, and I'm all for my people. Like I gotta keep it black is powerful. I love it.
That's right.
All right, well, thank you. And our famous guest, thank you, our co-host. Thank y'all. And we look forward to
All of us are
bringing y'all
famous.
some more stuff. So this is the Naked Podcast, and it's not what you think.
Let's get naked.
Right.
Let's put our clothes back on. The show's over.
Follow us on TAN TV. You know, y'all can check out the Naked Podcast on Roku, all Android devices, Apple devices, Fire Stick, and online at www.tan.tv. So check us out.